Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I am Razzle and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. We are going to take a look at pitching for Tuesday, the 1st of April. We do have an 11 game main slate, so we do have quite a bit of pitching to look at. I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you do play on FanDuel, you can cut my pitcher pool into about a half, as you do not have to be as creative. Pricing isn't quite as tight, so it allows you to get the stacks that you want with an upper tier ish pitcher. And as we dig in here, it's actually just after midnight here. Uh, we're going to take another look at some of the props. Now, unfortunately, because it is so early, not all props are out yet, but we can take a look at what we do see and get an idea of where we want to go with a pitching pool and probably trim it down, as the morning progresses tomorrow. With that said, let's take a look at some of these lines that are out. A couple of the pitchers, Corbin Burns, Will Warren. Warren had some hype during the spring. Interesting. It is a tougher matchup, but I don't think we can ignore him per se. It is. I don't like to pick on Arizona with pitching. I will be honest. I am a big fan of their offense, but it is in New York, and the Yankees have been playing extremely well at home to begin the season. Now, obviously, Burns a slight favorite. Game total sitting at 8.5. Juices on the under. Uh, so Burns is currently somebody that I would keep in my pool, but I wouldn't mind removing him, to be honest. At some point, the Yankees bats are going to cool off. Like, it's a guarantee. Do we try to predict that in this spot? I'm not really sure. I will want to see some of Burns' history against the Yankees to kind of get a better idea. As we scroll down, we get Jose Berrios. Somebody is minus 162 favorite, so it's a strong favorite. I think it's very similar to what Logan Gilbert is on this slate. Yeah, minus 162. So a strong favorite. Game total of 8.5. He wasn't the greatest, I believe, in the opener. Yeah, he got lit up by the Orioles. Obviously, the Nationals are not the Orioles. So with that in mind, I am kind of interested. Uh, Not sure. Kind of looking. See how he was at home last season. Far better at home than on the road. Home runs allowed rate was much smaller at home, which is kind of shocking, but it is a nice trend to see for this particular matchup. Going down the Twins, Richardson, I'm not really all that interested. I did write him down. He is a minus 175 favorite. Game total of 7.5. Juices on the under. But he had some strong strikeout numbers against the White Sox last year. Problem is this White Sox team is almost completely different. Not saying they're good, even though they did knock around Paddock. But I just don't know that Richardson has the upside that we're looking for, especially on an 11 game slate. Shane Smith going to be making his major league debut. The Twins' bats have been ice cold. I'm going to dig into him more. So for right now, I'm going to leave him as a maybe. He's super cheap at 6,500, but I need to know more about him as a pitcher because I'm not just going to throw out a punt pitcher just because. The game total definitely makes it look nice, and obviously the Twins' offense has been really bad to begin the season. Getting into the next one, Lorenzen, basically a coin flip. Pick them between the two teams. Game total of 8.5. Some of Lorenzen's props are interesting. He is plus 220 to earn the win, which is better odds than somebody like Corbin Burns. But his outs prop is just 14.5 with juice on the over. I mean, the Brewers' offense has kind of struggled, so he could be in play. But it also feels like a spot after today was Bob Euchre Day, emotional, whatever. Uh, Kind of a spot to like a delayed go off spot for that offense. So I am a little hesitant to want to include Lorenzen. Patrick, don't think I can do it, even though I do kind of think the Brewers win. I just don't think I can get there with Patrick on the slate. Not really interested in the pitching in the Angels Cardinals game. Logan Webb on the road is always a scary thing. He's a minus 118 favorite. The Astros bats have been pretty blah to begin the season. Webb's props overall are pretty strong, other than a low K prop, but he is plus 145 to earn the W, which as of right now is second behind Logan Gilbert. His runs allowed prop 2.5, but on the under. His outs prop is tied with Gilbert at the highest at over 17.5. So on this particular slate, Webb might be interesting because of the options we have, and a lot of things pointing his way. I just traditionally don't like him on the road. But when we get to face a cold offense, we have to consider taking a strong pitcher in that spot. Get down, Michael King, game total 7.5. King's a minus 166 favorite. His K props at 5.5. He's plus 160 for the win, which would be third out of the ones that have been posted. His outs prop is under 16.5. So that is a little worrisome. Cleveland traditionally hasn't struck out a ton. His K prop sitting at 5.5 with juice on the under. It's tied with a few others, not a bunch, a few others on the slate for the second best K prop, roughly behind Logan Gilbert. I think he's just going to have to be in play. Obviously, it's a pretty solid ballpark for pitching, and I do think that Cleveland is weak enough offensively that there is upside. Best game for me for pitching, Casey Mize and Logan Gilbert. Mize, his velo was super strong all spring. I'm going to have to dig in to see how stretched out he got. But game total of 7 with juice on the under is super intriguing. Mize's K prop, 4.5 with juice on the over. Run prop, 2.5, but juice on the under. Not a bad spot for Casey Mize. We know that Seattle does strike out plenty, even though Job didn't rack up the strikeouts tonight. The overall Seattle offense has been pretty weak, as the Tigers did win tonight's game. Logan Gilbert, top option on the slate based on props alone, sitting at a minus 170 favorite. It opened at minus 162. Obviously the under. K prop 7.5 with juice on the over, plus 120 for the W, and over 17.5 outs is his K prop. Easily going to be the number one, I think, on the slate. I would be using some Detroit bats in some lineups, though, the way that a bunch of them have begun the season at the plate. There would be some upside in their bats, especially against a higher owned Gilbert. But for me on this slate, Logan Gilbert is clearly the top pitching option. Getting down to the next game, game that just saw the Cubs put up 170 runs, I think. Or at least that's what it feels like. Minor league ballpark, the ball's probably going to fly a bit more, but just a total of 8. Juice is on the over, but it's not a bad total. The Cubs minus 135. Steele, strong option. K prop just 5.5. Juice on the under, but Severino has that same K prop. Steele's runs prop 1.5, but juice on the over. Severino's is 2.5 with juice on the under. Kind of waiting to see some odds on the W from each of them and some out odds, but I think there's enough strikeouts in the Athletics lineup that Steele has upside, and I think Severino is just solid enough to be able to put up a strong performance. But I do have worries, obviously, with the ballpark. The last game listed here, there's a couple other pitchers that we don't have any props for that we'll look at in a second. But Chris Sale versus Dustin May. The Dodgers minus 162 favorites. Game total of 8, juice on the under. May doesn't really have any props right now, But we have to be interested because this Atlanta lineup is struggling mightily to begin the season, and we want to take advantage of that for as long as we can in spots. Just because the general field might not want to pick on Atlanta. They see Atlanta, they assume they should be good, and they are dangerous. But when your teams are struggling, you use pitching against them. Chris Sale on the other side, obviously reigning Cy Young guy. He doesn't have any props yet either, which is a little annoying. Uh, Obviously, we know the Dodgers are elite, but Chris Sale is elite as well, and there will be some strikeouts in that Dodgers lineup. So I will definitely be using Chris Sale. He's a very, very interesting GPP pivot off of Logan Gilbert. Obviously, a volatile spot, but I do like the upside. If the offense comes alive for Atlanta just slightly, we could get a win out of Chris Sale. And then if Casey Mize and the Tigers were able to beat Logan Gilbert, that'd be a huge pivot, from Gilbert to Sale. But obviously, things have to kind of work out perfectly in that scenario, but it is an option and something I'm very interested in. Looking over here, as far as pitchers that don't have any props available, really there's just one, I guess. As I dig through, that's going to be Shane Baz or Boz. Um, Taking on his former team, I love Shane Baz. He just struggled a bunch of times last year in spots that we didn't think he would struggle in. He looks like he got it dialed in at the end of the season, which is great to see. Which we kind of expect because he was coming off of, I believe it was Tommy John, uh, going into, yeah, because he didn't pitch until July. So maybe it took a little while. The overall Pittsburgh lineup, I don't think is super dangerous. They are just 1-4 so far to begin the season. I want to dig into Shane Baz and see how he did, during the spring. But the Pirates have scored just 14 runs through the 5 games. 15 runs. Sorry. Uh, 3 over the last 2. I'm definitely going to be interested in him. I really want to see what props we get for him to get an idea from a K number standpoint and potentially an out standpoint. So definitely something we want to pay attention to. I wish Thomas Harrington was in the player pool because he does have some upside as a pitcher, as a prospect, but I don't believe DraftKings is just going to randomly add him. So we're kind of stuck without it there. But there's the first look at some of the games and pitchers that initially stand out for me. Obviously, I'm going to cut that pool down. I don't like to have that many pitchers. The goal is to get it to about 8 on an 11 game slate. Maybe I'll get to 9 or 10. I don't really want to. I just like the way that my percentages work out if I can get down to 8. I will definitely let members at DFS Army know as the day goes on where I end up going with my pool. So if you want to join us, I will put links in the description below. I believe we still have promo code First Pitch, which gets you 20% off per month forever. So you can definitely hit that link and try that code. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. And hit the comments. Let me know which pitcher you think is going to go under the radar that might get it done. Maybe it's somebody I didn't really talk about. Let me know who you think. If there's somebody I missed, I'm all for hearing about reasons to play him. But again, like always, best of luck, everybody.